Hello, and welcome to Marathon Swim Stories, where we explore the human side of the superhuman feats of endurance swimmers and those who support them. I'm marathon swimmer and coach Shannon Keegan. When I heard about and saw pictures of Jaimie Monahan's 70-kilometer swim the length of Lake Geneva in 2015, I started researching the possibility. Then I came to find out I was pregnant in early 16, so plans shifted, to say the least. So when Jaimie reached out to me a little over a month ago, offering to relive her 2015 swim with Arik and Tim of the Lake Geneva Swimming Association, I was ecstatic. It's no small feat to prop up a huge swim for marathon swimmers. And in 2015, this was a stretch for even Jaimie. Her longest swim prior was only half the distance. And solo crewman Arik faced no small task in supporting her for more than 30 hours. Everything about this swim enchants me. I'm trying to find a way to get my family to Geneva so I can find my way across the pristine alpine waters. Enjoy this trip back in time as Jaimie, Tim, and Arik generously share their experiences with us. Let's see. So let me mute a couple folks and we'll just jump right into it. Let's see where to start. I was thinking, Jaimie did a nice little blurb but maybe you could just kind of set the stage. I'm curious what came first, whether it was the LGSA or whether it was Jaimie's idea to swim all the way across Lake Geneva. Okay, set the stage for us, Jaimie.
I can tell it from my perspective, but I know Tim was part of the founding of it, so would love to hear the parallel experiences. But I had done a few different marathon swims, gotten into ice swimming, was looking for a new challenge, and kind of randomly, I received an email from the English Channel Swimmers group saying, "Hey, there's this new swim in Geneva in Switzerland. It's in a beautiful lake. Here's the distance." And I was like, And I started to Google around and just looked at pictures of the location and just the surrounding water and the landmarks along the way. And I was like, okay, the distance is 42 miles, 70 kilometers. That's kind of scary, but it looks like it would be worth it. Got my adrenaline going. So that's my perspective. But this was not my idea. Tim and Ben were the visionaries of the whole thing. So I was just happy to be along for the ride.
What was your longest distance prior to this?
I think like 20 or 25 miles, just
Okay.
normal like channel line swims.
Okay, so it's a big jump. So we're talking 20 to, it was 42 in miles, 70 kilometers, right? Okay, so Tim, what's your perspective? Maybe introduce yourself a
Unmute
little
here.
too. Yeah.
Hi, yeah. Thanks very much, Shannon. Yeah, I'm Tim. I'm the chairman of the Lake Geneva Swimming Association. And yeah, kind of a crazy idea. Ben Barham was, we were very good school friends. And our whole swimming story started because he said, I've got this idea to swim across the channel. And I thought, that's crazy. That'll never happen. And so he said, do you want to be part of the team? And eventually it really did happen, and had an amazing impact on him and really a big impact on me. And open water swimming, that's how we discovered it, really. And we kept in touch over the years. And then a few years later, he got in touch with me and he said, I've got this idea for swimming, for a swim across Lake Geneva in Switzerland. And you're kind of switched on and you speak a bit of French, and do you think you could help out? And I didn't really know what I was getting into. I said, yeah, of course, no problem. I'm always up for new things, and sounded exciting. And that's really how it started. So it was, I think a friend of his wanted to do a swim, or was talking about the idea of swimming in a big swim in a lake. And he said, well, he'd done a lot of mentoring for other people, younger people at our school, for swimming the channel. So he had a really good way of helping swimmers to achieve their dream. And he kind of transferred that from the channel to Lake Geneva. And so obviously there's a lot of logistics involved. There was a language thing. And so I think that's where really my help came in, was to kind of go there, meet people, and kind of put something together.
So when did you get in touch with Jaimie?
You'll have to help me with this, Jaimie. I think Ben,
while back.
It was 2014, I think it was. I don't know if Jaimie got in touch with Ben or the other way around. And then I just heard, Ben said, "Oh, we've got this American who's thinking of doing the swim. It's a big deal, swimming deal." And thought, okay, so we'll give it a go. But I think that was back in 2014.
Okay. So then I'm trying to figure out where to dive into, Jaimie's perspective or the logistics, because there's so many interesting pieces, but we've got plenty of time and we're in it. So talk a little bit about the logistics, Timothy. We'll come back to Jaimie and how she prepared and things like that a little later. So logistically, how do you coordinate something like a 70-kilometer swim across a freshwater lake?
It's a big challenge. The first thing to think is, on average, to swim the lake, it takes about 30 hours in relay or in solo. And so already you're talking about, an overnight, that's guaranteed, which is not always the case. Some really quick channel swimmers, they'll be done in 12 hours, and so maybe they get a bit of darkness, but they're not swimming all the way through the night and into the next day. And that's always a given with this swim. So that's already, when you're talking about supporting the swimmer, you need to think, okay, well, you're not going to have one guy driving the boat for the whole 30 hours. So you're going to need, relay teams of skippers and of observers. All the safety, you need to think of doubling up, and to make sure that you've got people on, who are switched on and working throughout the swim, so to make sure the swimmer's properly supported. Then obviously start and end point from one end of the lake to the other. But from one end, we finish in Switzerland, because typically is on the east side of the lake, called Castle, Château. It's beautiful old castle, very historic, very beautiful, and the little beach beside, which makes for a photo start, if you like. And then when you swim across, there's a kind of an imaginary line through the middle of the lake, and you'll dip into France and then come back out to Switzerland on the other side, and you get to very famous Bain de Paquis in Geneva, which is this public bathing area, which has been around for yonks. And so you've always got swimmers around who are eager to welcome you as you arrive, and they think, where have you come from? It's quite funny. So yeah, also, I mean, from a swimmer's perspective, they've got to find accommodation, and then they've got to travel to the start as well. Good thing is, in Switzerland, the public transport is very good, and the trains are very good. It's very well connected. So, I mean, Jaimie can talk more about that, but it's pretty straightforward. And then also in terms of weather, right? Because you have the same thing for a lot of these big swimming challenges, and in the channel, people talk about the tides and the windows. We don't have the tides so much, but you certainly do get people underestimated. I think you get some pretty rough weather, and it can be quite sudden, because you've got this big lake in the middle, surrounded by mountains. You've got the Jura Mountains to the north, you've got the Alps to the south. And so you can get these very small kind of microclimates and sudden winds which whip up and can completely change the conditions. So having a good weather window, and it's not just for one area, right? Because they often talk about the lake in three parts. They talk about the Haut Lac, which is if you like, the high lake, right on the eastern side. Then you've got Le Grand Lac, which is the big lake right in the middle, which is the largest body. And then you've got the Petit Lac, which is the small lake, and that tends to be the bit which is kind of like the finger at the end towards Geneva. And actually, Jaimie can talk about, mentally how you divide up the swim into these 3 chunks. They do the same geographically. So, you've got to think about the weather conditions for all of these different parts of the swim, all of these different parts of the lake, as the swim progresses. So typically, like in the channel, was having a weather window. And then kind of looking at the forecast a couple of days in advance and then saying, okay, we think we've got a good window and let's go for it.
So I can't fly in tomorrow, and you can't necessarily just take me the next day. That's what you're saying. I got to plan to stay for a week.
You can certainly try, and I'm sure, and I think people have done it, but it's you're certainly winging it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I guess just if people are unfamiliar with long swims, it is interesting, like reminding people about getting to the start. Like you just kind of like, you're so focused on swimming. I just remember when I did Lake Tahoe, I forgot that it was going to be like a 2-hour drive to the start, and that's only 21 miles. So here we're talking 42 miles. It's a big deal, but fortunately you guys have good public transportation in Europe, so that's great.
Yeah, I will say the trains were actually really convenient.
Yeah.
So the train, we stayed in Geneva, found a nice little spot, and in the morning, the trains run right on schedule. So we were there, found a nice little coffee shop to kind of relax and collect our thoughts, and then off to the water.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about, so you get this idea, what you decide you're going to swim, longest you've ever swam. What do you do next, Jaimie?
Yeah, and this was in, I think, like February, the same year of the swim. One of the benefits of being with a new organization, there's not, years long waiting list, which is awesome. But also training, I guess I didn't really have too much time to overthink it, which was really nice. One thing that was important for me was that almost all my long swims had been in salt water, not fresh water. So it was really important for me to get a really nice long freshwater swim in. So I ended up doing the End Wet river swim in the United States. It's about 36 miles, but it's with the current. So it's kind of like muddy freshwater, probably visually the opposite of Lac Leman, but a really good preparation to get some freshwater training in. I know people coming from different backgrounds, salt water can be very different than fresh water. I always say the salt water is harder on your skin. You get a lot more chafing, but you're a little bit more buoyant and supported in the water, so the swimming is easier. I love lake swimming. It's really, you don't chafe, you don't rub your sun cream off as much, but this swimming is actually harder. You have to kick, you have to, have core strength. So that was my main training. And then other than that, long swims, and I do a lot of pool swimming, which is important for me because I think just to build interval strength and training is the big thing. But yeah, I mean, I really didn't have an idea of what it was like, and flying in to Geneva on the airplane, we're coming in pretty much along the length of the lake, and I'm just like looking out the window. I'm like, this plane is going 500 miles an hour and it still seems like forever. I'm gonna swim this. But it was crazy. We kind of just did all the necessary things. One thing, Tim, I think I'll never forget is a couple of days before the swim, we all got together and we went grocery shopping to the market. We kind of bought all the things, and I think I was trying to press all this food on you and Ben, like, hey guys, I don't want you to be hungry, and you're like, no.
I remember that. We're like, Jaimie, why are you so concerned about us? Like, you're swimming. It's gonna be fine.
Like, because it's gonna take a really long time, and I want you to be well fed and comfortable.
That's an important point, though. It's very important to make sure your crew has everything that they need to be comfortable, because who knows how long it will take. Okay, keep going. So you're at the market. What's your favorite treat that you get for Tim?
What did we get? A lot of pasta, some pizza. I don't even remember.
Yeah, it was kind of one pot, easy stuff. Pasta, sausage, pot noodle, that kind of. Your typical.
What are the facilities on the boat for preparing food? Tell us a little bit about the boat.
We had a little fruit. It was we made a package and very
You're breaking up a bit, Tim.
Yeah,
reach
I was
that
just
far.
gonna.
Oh, now he's frozen.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was saying, I don't know how far you got, but yeah, definitely not haute cuisine. That's not that's my skills do not stretch that far. But yeah, some simple pasta dishes and with a sauce, something like that.
Yeah. What was the facilities on the boat for preparing food for crew and for Jaimie as well, for the swimmer?
It was a little cuisinette thing, like a couple of hobs, like a gas burner thing.
Okay. Okay. Great.
So yeah, it was down the fridge as well.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
This was like a beautiful sailboat. It was fantastic. Like it was very well equipped, multiple sleeping cabins, shower, kitchenette. So yeah, I was more focused on having hot water heating. I don't really eat food, but it's such a benefit to have that so people can actually get a sleep. And I do believe, Tim, now you have different options for different boats. So your mileage may vary and you can kind of select according to your preferences. I saw a relay team the year after I did this beautiful, again, ridiculous, glamorous yacht boat and had like catering spreads of like wine and cheese and champagne at the finish. So you can maybe, if you're cost savings mode, you can have lower cost options, or if you really want to splash out and make it a once in a lifetime thing, talk to Tim and Yaisa. They'll hook you up with whatever you need.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So
Can we ask questions or?
Oh,
Yeah.
well, we'll do a little bit of Q&A maybe at the end. I just want to get a little bit more perspective.
Okay,
Thanks,
cool.
Moaz. I appreciate that. I meant to set that stage in the beginning. I apologize. So, Tim, when you were first getting organized, did you have pilots running to you? They're like, I want to drive the swimmer across the lake, or did you have to go pull their teeth to get them to come out? What was that like?
Yeah, it's the opposite. They're running away.
Exactly. That's what I was afraid of.
I think the great thing about the channel is you've got this this great long tradition, and people kind of just it's something that happens, and so we were really going somewhere new where there wasn't the same mindset, there wasn't the same tradition or culture, and you're talking with French, with Swiss. It's definitely different, I think, and always starting from scratch. It's a new idea. You've got to kind of get people's head around it. They're actually swimming the whole way across. Kind of
Right.
why? Like, why would they want to do that? It's but once you hang around enough and you start banging on enough doors, you eventually find someone, or you find some people, and they're willing to help out.
Yeah. Tell us what, well, first of all, there's Lake Geneva, like Lac Leman, same thing, right? Just for the.
I always go by this can get very
very, well, let's do it because
No.
if I want to approach
Let's do it.
somebody about swimming, I want to call it the right lake.
I mean, go in English. If I'm speaking in English to an English speaking person, I always talk about Lake Geneva because that's how we call it. And then French speaking, I'd speak about le Leman, because Leman, I think Lacus Lemanus, I think it was, they were talking about that in Roman times. And the word Leman, the root of it has an implication of lake already. Okay. So you can actually not just Geneva and Leman, but you can also get, well, is it Leman or is it Lac Leman? And some people say, well, Lac Leman is a tautology, it's the lake kind of thing. So, but that's, I think, getting quite splitting hairs. So I think that if you're talking about Lac Leman, I think it's fine. I know the name has changed, kind of, if it's been talking about Le Mans or Lake Geneva, it's changed a little bit over the century. Even if you talk about Le Mans.
And what is the activity like so what month were we doing this swim?
August.
You in August, Jaimie? Yeah.
Yep.
So what's the kind of activity on the lake? I'm just comparison, like that's just kind of an important thing to plan for, right? Is if there's a bunch of people speedboating around and you have a swimmer in the water.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff. People, apart from locals, a lot of people, they have a summer getaway there. I think Schumacher had a place there, Freddie Mercury had a place there. Shelley and Byron, they used to go there. It was always been a great popular destination for the summer. Swimming, over the past, you didn't do that much of it, and now it's just there's. Or did you do that?
I got you. I think you're back now. Okay.
Okay. I was saying, that stand-up paddleboarding has exploded as well recently, and you get all sorts of a lot of sailing, a lot of paddleboarding, a lot of swimming as well now, and every year a bit more as well. We're working hard on that.
Right.
So it's great. A really, really good summer spot.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like when I do Tahoe here in the US, they have you swim like at night, partly because the lake is so busy during the day. Is that something? I mean, but you're talking about a 30-hour plus swim, and you're inevitably going to be part of the
Doesn't
day,
matter
part
when
of
you
the
start.
night, right? Okay. It's more about the weather window. Is that it?
Definitely. And also I'd say it's big.
Yeah. Okay.
From the crew
Like-
perspective, like I'm always checking out Jaimie, make sure there's not a lot of boats or kite surfers or other weird stuff around. And as Tim just said, it is big. There's lots of room for people to navigate around you. Everyone seemed quite respectful, which was good. I think when you get closer to actual Geneva, and that's when it starts to pick up a little bit. You just get a little bit more congested, but even then, I think the boats did a great job sort of keeping us safe, and everyone was very respectful in terms of giving everyone a nice flight berth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing we do, I was going to say, we make sure that everyone's informed what's going on. So we tell them with a lot of notice, because you've got a lot of different. You've got French side of the lake, you've got the Swiss side of the lake, and then you've got the different cantons as well. It's not just one region, if you like, or one county. That there's a couple of different ones, so they all have to be informed as well. So we make sure that the right people know the right information, so that often we might get the police coming out towards the end as a little kind of salute, and that's nice as well because you get a bit of extra support.
Yeah. Do you recommend a kayaker with a swimmer as well as a boat, or just a boat is adequate?
Had both. We've had swimmers
Okay.
who like a kayaker, swimmers who haven't. It's either or. I think it's a lot down to the preference of the swimmer.
We didn't have one when Jaimie did it, and looking back, I would have liked to have one for the night. So if I had thought about it or been on top of my game, I would have brought a little kayak and done some at the night, because she drifts on occasion when it's dark
Fall
out.
asleep or something. Yeah.
We didn't have the Oru back then. Actually, our first encounter with the Oru was, I think, the following summer, also on Leman, which is amazing. But yeah, these guys are in touch. We're in touch with French authorities, the Swiss authorities, kind of constantly, because it doesn't really just go from one country to the other. Like, for example, the English Channel, you actually zigzag between countries. You kind of re-enter a few times, and dealing with the other areas. It's crazy, but Tim is a very skilled negotiator. I think one of my other standout memories of kind of prepping for the swim was once we got all of those groceries and all the water and everything, and had shopping carts full with food, we kind of rolled up to Bandipaki, which is a very fashionable shopping area, beautiful cafes, all these amazing looking people, just having their, coffee or their cocktail on the lake. We kind of roll up shopping carts, and Tim talks the owner of the cafe into letting us basically hang out there and just like wait on the dock for the boat come and pick all of our supplies up. So he's very good at kind of navigating those situations, which is definitely something that made things a lot easier for us, because I think otherwise we would have been bringing the groceries with us on the public train and
Swimming them out to the boat, something horrible.
That's great. Yeah, it's good to have a skilled negotiator in charge of your swim. So we're back to groceries. You're on the dock. you've had your cafe relaxing by the water. What happens next?
Well, before that, it's probably important to mention that, yes, it was so easy in terms of the amazing Swiss transport system and the railways and these amazing facilities, but then you have the humans involved, and the kind of whole evening before, Arik and I didn't sleep a wink. We
Of
both were kind
course.
of laying in bed, like, I think we were stressed out. I remember just these really annoying pillows. The sheets were too.
Yes, I believe at one time someone rolled over and the other one went, "You're making too much noise in the sheets. It's keeping me awake." So there's lots of nerves, but
Yeah, that's an important part too about these big swims. Is as much as everyone's like, "Oh, rest before," it is hard.
I'm usually pretty good, and I will say for anybody listening, the most important night of sleep, if you've done triathlons and things like this, you know that is actually the one 2 nights before rather than the immediate day, because often you're getting up at the crack of dawn anyway. So, but yeah, this was unusual for me in terms of that. So yeah, it was good that the railway system was smooth, because I think otherwise we wouldn't have.
yeah.
Okay, so you've got us, you're not rested, but you've got your food. You've had your time at the cafe before the lake. What happens next?
So we got picked up at the dock, at this cute little, dock, and got brought over to Chateau Chillon, and there's a great little beach, and kind of did our usual thing. We're pretty well-oiled machine in terms of, strip down, get the sunblock on, get ready, cap, goggles, jump in, swim to the beach. And the start of this swim, I can't stress it enough, Google some pictures. It's this historic, amazing chateau all around the first third of the lake. You see these beautiful vineyards, little towns, everything is just gorgeous. And the water towards the middle of the lake, and I think we'll talk about some of the shorter swims later too, in Evian, is it's the water that Evian water is made from. It's the clearest and cleanest in the world. We could have probably even skipped bringing water and just drank from the lake.
That's amazing. So what time of day did you end up starting?
It's probably around like 8 a.m. or so, which
Okay.
was good. Yeah, it was nice.
Mhm.
And the train takes about maybe like an hour. You change at Lausanne and then you go kind of up, but it's very smooth and quick. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So how are you feeling when you first get into the water? It's beautiful, of course, but are you nervous? Are you this is
yeah.
your longest swim ahead of you, and you flew over it and you were just like, it's never ending. So how does that go?
Yeah, I think I always get really nervous beforehand. And then once I'm in the water, I feel good. It's familiar. That's when you can kind of just let go of everything and, focus on the moment. Any funny stories from the boat?
I was going to say, at that point, it's just me constantly worrying. I think she's always in a nice mindset and ready to swim, and it's just me worrying nonstop for 33 hours. But I do recall meeting Tim and Ben, and they're like, "All right, so where's your crew?" And I'm like, "Here." They're like, "No, the rest of your crew." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's just me." And I don't think they were excited to hear that. And having gone through all of the hours awake, I would certainly say, get at least 2 people. I don't know that you want a whole lot of people, because sometimes it gets to be too much of a party and you're not paying attention to the swimmer, but 2 to 3 would probably be good, and take all the cooking duties and everything off Tim and Ben, who kept me fed, which was so nice. And it's a beautiful swim the whole way. It does keep on changing. I think what they were saying earlier about breaking it up and sort of checkpoints, just as Tim described, there really is those 3 portions of the lake that we wound up breaking it up into. And we were thinking that it was going to be around the same amount of time for each, because even though that last bit is the shortest, that's when you're most tired. So
right.
it's fast. So we tried to put our model in where it was like, we're going to start off at X speed, we'll probably drop down to here and then down to there. And that was a nice way to gauge if she's, keeping on track the way we think she will, as well if her stroke is still going well, and just an overall sense of, yes, we're doing, what we projected. It's a little bit of, I don't know, positive safety in that, I guess, in one's mind.
Mm-hmm. And what was it like for you having this? You just meet these people, they're about to swim across the lake, Tim. What's it like for you?
Yeah,
I don't. Honestly, I don't think I've ever met more cool customer, honestly. Jaimie and Eric turned up and they were like, I remember meeting you guys for the first time outside the hotel, and I think a day or two before, I think it was before the groceries. And Jaimie's like, yeah, I'm going to give it a go. We'll see how it is. Yeah, we've thought about the plan and everything. We kind of think, okay, any more questions? Like, you're not nervous? Not at all. Like, totally ice cold. Eric did the whole shift. I would not recommend that. I would not wish that on anyone to do the whole thing on your own. It was, it's superhuman, and not once was there any kind of doubt that she was going to make it. At least not in my mind. I thought these guys have got it down. It looked really, really confident, and I think just the planning and the preparation was so good. That it really, really helped. I remember the one episode I remember is I think in that last final section, and Jaimie's kind of looking at Eric for a feed and saying how long is left, and Eric is very, very not putting in numbers, not saying just keep going, you're getting there, and Jaimie's kind of like just just tell me how long we've got left, kind of thing. It's like being diplomatic, like keep going, you're doing great, we're almost there. Because that last bit, I think it's worth stressing, just goes on forever. Because the jet d'eau, very famous jet d'eau in Geneva, it's an extremely tall water fountain. You can see it for miles, and you think, oh, it's around the corner, and you've got so much longer to go. It just takes forever. So I think it can be often that last bit, that last third, is where it can be really, really tough mentally, and you've got a lot longer than you feel you have.
Yeah. What was it like for you mentally, Jaimie? Was it just a walk in the park?
No. And one thing I would mention is I don't know if it's always the same, and obviously wind is subject to change and that can affect surface currents and things, but I've seen just with observing that area more than other parts of the lake, it does seem to be higher wind and usually in the opposite direction coming in that way. So I would say, the same thing is for me when I'm in the last 10% of the swim, I switch from being in the moment to being, okay, when am I done? But yeah, I think you can see the jet d'eau like probably from 12 or 15 miles away.
Wow.
Yeah, so it really, and then kind of that in combination with it getting a lot rockier, and it just felt, I think the other thing was this was so new at the time. I think we actually thought that there was a bit of a current flow through the lake that would assist. That it, at the time we didn't know. But I think at the time I was like, where's this current, But yeah, just kind of anything, and you guys probably are familiar, the swimmers on here, anytime when you're seeing bridges or looking at a landmark, it just never seems to get closer. So just don't even bother. I mean, the jet d'eau is beautiful, so yes, look at it, but don't look at it as a marker of where, if you're getting anywhere or not. Right. And I don't usually ask how far do I have to go. So it was really, I think the other thing is I slowed way down too at the end, just because I had never done that before. So,
Right.
Yeah, I remember the last bit, specifically the last maybe 10K or so, it got a bit choppy for you. I remember that. Yeah.
How do you get through that, Jaimie, when it gets hard like that?
Just put my head down. I've had other situations too with wind or, with currents where you might be feeling great one moment, you might be feeling horrible one moment, but, just if you hang in there a little bit longer, unless you're injured or there's some danger, like just keep going, see if it changes,
Yeah. You're not the first person to say like you make it seem so easy to just get to the other side of it, but when you're in it, is it hard for you when you're in it? You'll get through it, but
yeah, that's where I just had never done anything like that physically, and I just remember like I felt like I usually kick and I have a very like holistic stroke, so I don't tend to get chafed or anything like that, but I remember my forearms felt really stiff. And I think that was just from working harder in the fresh water. So towards the end of that, I did feel it on my body more than it comes to that date, but it's the distance. It's water temperature. It's the fresh
Yeah,
water.
what was the water temperature? I don't think we
Oh,
touched.
it was perfect. It was like 22 degrees Celsius, 70 plus Fahrenheit.
Oh,
In the night, it got a bit cold. Arik is usually very nice, and he always wears this orange t-shirt, not this one for swims, but in the night he'll actually put his clothes on underneath it. So I may not notice that I always notice, but visually it's not as much of a cue like, oh, they all put their jackets on. But yeah, in the evening and the night it was cold.
Yeah, I try and mess with her head pretty much through the whole.
No.
whatever it takes to keep her going, right?
Mhm.
So what was that experience like for you, Arik? It's her longest swim ever. How do you stay in it for 33 hours? Is that what we talked about?
Yeah, and I'd love to say that I did stay in it for 33 hours, but there was definitely a part where the sun came up, and there's just beautiful houses, beautiful space all over this lake. And I'm staring at one house, and I think it was Ben sitting next to me, and I'm like, wow, that house is just stunning. A little bit goes by. I'm like, wow, look at that house. That house is just, and it looks just like the other one. He just lets me go with it. He's not giving me a hard time. About another 5 minutes go by, and I'm like, I can't believe it. They built the same house 3 times before finally he breaks my heart. He's like, yeah, that's the same house, man.
Wow.
So definitely recommend having 2 people because you get a little loopy if you stay up the whole time. But there's just so much going on. You know, I'm always counting her stroke, making up the next feeds, making sure things are warm. I try and track distance between feeds, so I see if things are staying on sort of what our goals are. So for me, I'm moving around a whole bunch, and certainly it's great, you know, having Tim and Ben support everything that we had going on. And I think they saw me not eating or drinking or doing anything, so they usually don't do that. I'm just a bundle of nerves, and they were kind enough to force food upon me, which was actually quite good. So although you're saying you're not a good one-pot chef, Tim, I disagree. It was fantastic.
That's great. Was there any, just being your longest swim to date at the time, was there any, I mean, we talked a little bit about just, you know, like the looking when you don't usually look and like needing to keep going and it being a little choppy, but was there any other kind of hard parts that you encountered?
Yeah, I mean, I think just in the night, actually for me, one thing that was really unusual about this was that Tim and Ben graciously asked me, do you mind if we share your tracker and, you know, let people know you're doing this because it's a new organization? And of course, anyone who knows me, everything in my head rebelled against that. But I'm like, it's a new organization. We want to promote it. I feel good about it. So that was extremely nerve-wracking to me, just because I don't know. I'm still not a big fan of it, but one of the nicest things about that was in the night when it got cold, the boys would read some messages to me from people who were replying to the emails and things. One of them was from Molly Nance, who's on the call today, and Arik said, I don't know who that is. And I'm like, that's Trudy's mom, which is Trudy is her dog. But and then he knew right away who it was. But getting those messages, it was nice. And, you know, it made us feel like we were connected to the greater community of swimmers, which is nice.
Yeah.
And then I think the one thing that I never heard you say before in any of your swims, where I think we must have finished at this point, but she's like, it was the strangest thing. The longer it went on, the more I just wanted to touch something.
Yep.
Like I wanted to be able to reach down to the bottom of the lake and just put my hands in soil so I could have that tactical feeling. I never heard her say that before, so I think it's kind of an interesting.
Yeah.
I've never felt that before. I think it was something about feeling so stiff and, you know, being just so unused to the sensation. But yeah, so and actually another funny thing was our friends that we had met, we ran a running marathon in Antarctica, and we had met these amazing Swiss runners, and they would travel all around the world and they actually were based in Geneva, and a town that was kind of halfway across the lake. So in the morning, one of our friends actually came out on his little kayak and kind of had his coffee and chit-chatted a little bit, and that was really fun. And then at the finish line, we were greeted not just by these gorgeous bathers kind of getting suntans, and I come out like a monster covered in white sunscreen, but also by our friends, and they came right to Band de Paquis. They were on the steps. Tim and Ben had arranged a photographer for the local news that actually captured when I saw, you know, this amazing group of, you know, friends that were here to see us finish. And that was such a special moment as well. So just, you know, the look on my face. It's funny because I have like pictures of me like I'm like holding my arms up like in happiness, and like he's making me like pose for photos and photos of jet dough and things like that. And, you know, again, these are things that I don't really ever do, but it was really fun because it was so different and so new. But
Yeah, that's great. I just wanted to touch on the social media thing because I've had resistance to that too, but that definitely helped me get through when I did Lake Mint for Magog, just hearing the little reports. So it's nerve-wracking to let people know what you're up to, but it is really heartwarming to get those messages and know that people are kind of cheering you on from wherever they're at. So I wanted to mention that. But I also want to say that the second I heard that you did this, I immediately looked into it. I was like, all right, I got to go to Lake Geneva. So that makes a good segue to Tim. Tell us about all the different offerings that you guys have at the LGSA now.
Yeah, we started with the signature swim, we call it, which is the 70 kilometers from Chillon to Paquis. And then we thought this is kind of a long swim. And
kind of.
Wouldn't it be nice to have something that, you know, is a little bit more accessible? So I was looking around with the idea to do a shorter swim and stumbled across an event that used to be organized by the Olympic Committee. It was a swim between Lausanne and Evian. So Lausanne is on the north side of the lake in Switzerland, and Evian is it's beautiful little spa town on the French side in the south. And so you go from top to bottom. It's about 13 kilometers straight swim. And this was on the World Cup circuit for a couple of, from about 87 until I think 2003. And then they didn't do it anymore. So then, you know, we thought, well, this is quite I liked it because it was a point to point, you know, it was still a crossing of the lake. And there was a real element of adventure to it. And on top of that, there was this history behind it. It was a swim that used to happen on the lake, and it doesn't happen anymore. And wouldn't it be great to bring it back? And not just for pros, but for everyone, you know? Mm-hmm. And so in 2017, we had the inaugural Classique, we called it, because reading one of the old, actually, Jack is a great one to speak to about this. When Jack came to swim with us in Lake Geneva, we got talking about the Classique, and he said, "Yeah, you know, I've done that swim." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, I did that swim, you know, back in '92, I think it was." And he showed me some photos of all of the content, you know, the signed letter from the president of the Olympic Committee, signed letter from the mayor of Lausanne, really, really amazing bits of history. And they in their message to the swimmers, they referred to it as this Classique Traversée. And I thought, what a great name. And so we called it the Classique. And yeah, we had our first one in 2017. And that was super popular. People really, really loved that. It was quite a good distance because there's a lot of 10K swims, maybe river swim or around some buoys. But this was that added thing of, you know, you're crossing the lake and you can see the shore on the far side. And the amount of people who came to me afterwards and said, I've always dreamed of doing this. I've dreamed of doing this swim and I've never been able to do it. And finally, you know, I've been able to do it with you guys, and just like, I'll never forget it. People in tears when they arrive at the finish. So, tears of joy, I might add.
Yes, yeah.
And it was really, really, it stuck with me because there is something about that journey and that sense of adventure. You know, you're going from one side to the other.
Oh yeah. I think that was just, I mean, I want you to tell us more about what it is, but I just want to, I guess, say thank you for offering that, especially for like the average person. I feel like it's so, as a swim coach, it's so important for me to like help people just realize, you know, what they're capable of, because I think it inspires them to do more. And I don't know, so that's like my personal mission, but being able to have swims that we can do that aren't just for pro elite level people, that anybody can go sign up for those so that they can have that experience. And I just have to say, for me personally, I think the first lake I swam all the way across was only 5 miles, but to look back and even just not to be able to see the other shore because it's around a corner, and when you walk up and people are like, where did you go? Where did you swim from? And you're like, oh, the other side. Like, I just think that's the most amazing feeling. So thank you for offering that.
It is. It totally is. And for me, it was a bit of a gamble because I said to Ben, I've got this idea for a shorter, more accessible swim. We thought, well, give it a go. Don't know. We weren't really sure how people were going to respond to it, if it was going to work. And we had, I think, 16 or 17 people that first year in 2017. And obviously we did something right because, we had more than double the next year, and then, more than 3 times the next year. So it was really great swim. And so we offer the Signature and the Classique. And then we very recently launched the Escape Leman. And the Escape Leman was along the same lines, was 13 kilometers, is less than 70, but it's still quite long.
Yeah.
And we wanted to get, people, we wanted to be inclusive. We wanted to kind of offer something for as many people as possible. And so we thought, okay, how do we do this and still maintain everything that we love, which is adventure and traverses and that sense of journey and the sense of beauty and awe that you get around the other swims. And doing a bit of research, came across the Alcatraz Triathlon, I think, where they jump off this beautiful old paddle steamer and they swim back to shore. And I thought, oh my God, we have to do it. And I found a guy who runs this association, and they have these beautiful, beautiful old barges. And I don't know if you know the history of around Geneva, but a lot of Geneva city was built using granite, rather stones from quarries on the eastern side. And there was a lot of trade of all sorts of goods that happened back and forth along the lake. And to do that, they had these big, big barges. And you imagine the typical boat you might see on the Nile. It's got these lanterne sails, the big kind of V sails that go up like 2 gull wings. That's a particular style of sail, and they have the same style but huge, big boats with bakunis, who are the people who were the crew on these boats, shifting people and goods up and down the lake. There were lots of these boats, and they have a replica of one of these boats, and they do weddings and touristy things and things like that. And we basically got an agreement with them to do an event using their boats. So the Escape Leman, the idea is that you get on the boat, you sail out to the middle of the lake, and then you jump off the boat and you swim back to shore.
That's great.
So immediately you've got this beautiful, you're part of the history of the region, connect through this boat. And then you also have the luxury that we've offered different distances, because with the boat you can change the starting point. Yeah. So it means that you can be 6 kilometers away from the shore. We've also got 1.5 kilometers or 750 meters, even 200 meters. For people who are total novices, they're completely new to open water swimming. They just want to try. So the idea is, with the Escape, the Classique, and the Signature, you've got kind of a little bit of something that could appeal to everyone.
I love that. Thank you again for offering that. That's wonderful. I think that's a good segue to some Q&A. One of the questions in the chat was, is there a time limit for the Classique?
Yeah, I think it was, need to double check. I think it was 7 hours. And typically, or 7 or 7.5. Typically, it's been more than enough time for people to get across. The fastest swimmers, we had 3 hours, even just under 3 hours, and the slowest we had about 7. And obviously, it's just for safety and those kind of things. But I think it's around 7 or 7.5.
Okay. Anybody else want to come off mute and ask any questions for Arik or Jaimie or Tim?
And I just wanted to call out, we actually have at least 2 Classique swimmers.
Oh.
Martin Webster won the first one way back
Awesome.
when, and then Mark Spratt also did it. I think he saw the finish line for a while too. And I think we have at least one hopefully future signature swimmer on the line as well. So this is a great group to have.
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming. I appreciate it.
I have
Oh,
a question.
questions? Yeah, hop in
Yeah,
there.
hi. It's for Jaimie. Could you please share with us about your nutrition strategy during all this journey? Like, how often, and did you feel like you are bunking a little bit at the end? And what's your strategy? And
Yeah, I am really boring. I feed strictly on carbohydrate powder. It's just a maltodextrin mix. It's aimed at getting about 300 calories in me per hour, and I split that into 2 30-minute kind of rest periods. I usually mix it with warm water unless the water is very cold, unless the water is very warm. Maybe towards the end of a swim, at like halfway or later, I'll start to have some caffeinated gels just as a treat. But other than that, I really don't do any solid food. I don't do any like candies. A couple times with very, very long swims, I've had some ramen noodle broth in the night, but that's unusual for me. But and yeah, not many issues. And you go through highs and lows. But if I am feeling tired or I feel like I need more energy, I just drink more or ask for a gel. If I feel like I'm having too many calories, I just cut back or just ask for plain water. Or for the first signature swim too, I do remember I had some times where I think I was taking in too much calories over time. So I asked for black tea. They gave me some flat soda towards the end as well. So pretty simple. And I would recommend, that being said, that works for me and a lot of other people, but other people really live for peanut butter sandwiches or baby food. Just try what you like, as long as you're getting the right mix of calories, and that's something that your stomach accommodates. And then the other thing is I do, slightly less electrolytes in salt water than in the fresh water. In the fresh water, you may need more electrolyte than in salt water, just because you're not taking it in just through swallowing water accidentally.
Yeah, and yeah, everything Jaimie said is spot on, and it's very unique for everybody because I know I'm a person who craves real food. After a liquid for like 3 hours, I'm like, give me something to chew. So it's different. It's definitely different for everybody, and you got to find out what works for you, and also be able to be swift in your feeds because you want to keep swimming. That's why you're there. I want to get to you, Martin, but there's also a question too about too many calories, which I think is an interesting one too, because you can get that kind of bloated feeling and be really uncomfortable. So talk a little bit about how you would know if you're getting maybe too many calories, Jaimie.
Yeah, for me, I just feel like a little burpy or just like a little like tight in my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just kind of like don't drink as much of the bottle. Usually I drink a full bottle, but sometimes that's a little bit extra. So I don't really stress out. You don't really stress out if I don't drink the whole bottle. It's more like if it's a pattern of you're not taking your feeds consistently, I'll usually say verbally. I do very quick feeds, but I'll usually say verbally as well, like, hey, I'm feeling a little full. I'm not going to drink the whole thing, just so that they know it's. I've heard stories of swimmers just kind of feeling really ill and being in a bad place and not communicating. So I always try to set their mind at ease with that.
Yeah, if she doesn't drink it for like 2 or 3 times, then I'll start to get a little questioning on what's happening down there. But if she's just skipping 1 or 2 or just not drinking at all, it's not a big deal. I'm probably more concerned with electrolytes and those things. She hasn't had really issues with cramping previously, so I don't want to give her too many electrolytes and really sort of put her body into shock. So we keep that level pretty low and rely on the goos and those things for a lot of the electrolytes that are coming in.
And a big call out for everybody else on the flip side too. For me, I think it's important to communicate if you're not urinating. For me, I'll say, hey, assume I'm good unless I say something. But some people do run into problems where if they're not, so that's something to think about at each feed. Have you peed? Are you feeling okay? Because we've heard of people having some pretty bad problems where they get into a situation where they're not. So it's important that your crew know.
Yeah, and just in general, that communication. I know for me, as just kind of an introvert who just kind of keeps to myself, and I want to make everyone happy. I had to like bridge that, like learn that communication, and just like a cautionary tale to people, like just be sure, your crew's there. They want to help you. They want you to get to the other side. They want you to succeed, and they probably, especially like someone like Tim, who's taken a bunch of people across the lake. He's got experience helping a lot of people. He might know something that you don't. If you don't communicate, they might not be able to help you. But if you keep it all inside. So just, communication is very important. Martin, you had a question?
Yeah, hi guys. Nice to see some familiar faces. How you all doing?
Hello.
A couple of questions if I can. For Jaimie, do you approach the 70K any differently from what you would do for 35K, for example? Or is it pretty much the same? Do you adapt anything?
I would say pretty much the same, to be really honest. I don't change much. Same swimsuit, same cap, same earplugs. The mindset is the same. I've had 10K swims that feel harder than, the 70K. So I think with you, you're a very fast swimmer and you might have to pace yourself a bit more. But for me, unless I'm sprinting in a race, in a short swim, I have one pace pretty much. So
I was thinking more in respect to your training and your sort of build up to it as well.
It's a good one. Leading up to this, I did train more probably than I had because it was a goal that scared me. But I have a pretty minimalistic. I think it echoes with Shannon's kind of perspective in terms of not kind of overtraining, not having to do the mileage twice in a week and things like that. I like to be more well balanced and incorporate yoga and weightlifting as well as the pool training. So I'm not just about a yardage or meters person. I'm not like a meters junkie. So again, you need to do what you need to do to be comfortable with the distance, but I think you're pretty good at that. So I would done what you've been doing.
Not a lot at the moment, but
I feel you.
I feel you. Yeah, we're all there.
Yeah. Another question is, do you go with a direction in mind, or you're happy to sort of switch it around depending on the wind direction and conditions?
That's a great question because I've actually been fortunate to do it both ways in both directions. And I think the first year Tim, I think the plan was, unless there's really strong winds one way, we were going to definitely go from Chillon to Paquis. So, because we thought that there was a current and maybe that would help us. And, that was pretty much the set plan. The second, I think we realized that there's not really a strong flow throughout most of the lake to help you with that. So we started the other way. And I honestly think it was more to being better mentally equipped and better physically trained. But the time going in the other direction was much faster. So
super.
Thanks, guys. The logistical side, I found it so much easier to be in Geneva, leaving from Chillon and coming back, because then you're near your base camp. You got everything to unload. The experience of just rolling into Bain de Paquis is gorgeous. There's just so many people there excited. You're announced over the loudspeaker. So I think like there's some points to going that direction that I think are very nice and make the swim special.
Can you speak to that, Tim, like how you guys choose direction, or if that's set?
No, it's not set. And I think, as Jaimie said, she's done both directions. Arik is definitely right. If you start in Geneva, there's a lot of people have stayed in both. We've had people stay in Geneva or people stay in Villeneuve, which is right by the castle on the other end. And obviously there's a lot more choice in Geneva. It's a big city. And also when you finish, it's a lot easier. You can just get a cab or you can walk. There's accommodation really nearby. You can walk. And you're obviously tired. So that's something to bear in mind. I think it's down to preference if you want to get up a bit earlier and take the train over, or if you want to just be at the start already when things on the day. And then in terms of the water itself, like I've heard mixed reports from people about currents this way, currents that way, and stuff. But generally, I wouldn't rely on a current to carry you to Geneva. Yeah, I mean, people do talk about water flow from the Rhone going along the north edge of the lake, which is the Swiss side, because it kind of sweeps in and then round. But then, to be honest, I think it's minimal. And if you go on the north side of the lake, you've got more distance over ground that you're traveling, right? So if you go along the south side, it's a shorter direct line that you're doing. So kind of probably 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
We're running out of time. We just have time for maybe one more question. There's one in the chat about, can you have a personal crew kayaking with you for the Classique?
For the Classique, yes, we've had that before, and it's not a problem. It's one that we normally discuss with our safety officers, and typically the way it goes is you've got kayakers who are part of the safety team, and so they're not dedicated to one swimmer, and that means that you might not be kayaking along next to the same swimmer the whole time as things ebb and flow. If you want to have your own kayaker come alongside with you, that's absolutely fine. And typically what we say to them is you're not part of the safety team as such, so you're obviously there to support your swimmer, and that's fine. We'll ask for the experience that they have as a kayaker, because the last thing we want is to have to be rescuing more people because they come to help out and then they actually get into trouble. It's a big crossing, and I think people can think, oh yeah, I'll just paddle alongside. You need some experience. But absolutely, I mean, we've had that before, and it's typically not been a problem.
I love that. Thank you so much. I as much as I want to be like, oh, let's ask questions all day, I want to be respectful of everyone's time too, and say thank you so much for this idea, Jaimie. It was so wonderful to meet you, Tim. I really hope I can come visit you.
Likewise.
And swim.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, and some other thank yous in the chat. So thank you guys so much. And there'll be a recording of this out in a couple days on the Marathon Swim Stories website that I'm just getting up and going. So send over any.
And guys, if you ever have questions, feel free to reach out. We're here. I know it's the middle of the workday for in the US at least, but we're both reachable on social media. Me more than Art, but please do reach out if we can help with anything, or contact Yaisa on the LGSA website. The contact form is really easy. It's like instantaneously, and she is lovely to deal with, much more helpful than we are.
Thank you guys so much. I hope you all have a great evening or morning or afternoon, wherever you are.
And thank you, Shannon, for organizing.
Thank you, great program. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed today's interview. Do you want to take Marathon Swim Stories with you? Subscribe on your favorite podcast provider. Want to connect with like-minded limit pushers? Join us for Marathon Swim Stories live on Tuesdays at 5:30 a.m. Pacific, 8:30 Eastern, 13:30 GMT. Thanks for watching.